So the other big topic that I'm sure will come up tonight is obviously this New York Times report on President Trump's taxes. So first things first, if somebody actually leaked proprietary information on Trump's taxes from like the IRS to the New York Times, that's illegal. That should be somewhat disturbing to all of us. Now, I've been a proponent for a long time that Trump should have released his tax returns in 2016, and then certainly after he was president, he should have just released his tax returns. Like, what the hell was the downside of just releasing the tax returns? I'm also not of the opinion that this is going to be an entirely damage-free scenario for Trump, because what they report is that Trump in the last couple of years has paid like a combined $1,500 in federal taxes. And the natural reaction of people is not a logical one, namely that our system itself is screwed up, that our deduction system is really messed up in this country, that we should basically just have a flat tax in this country and we should get rid of all of the deductions entirely. Instead of that, people react with, well, he's a rich guy. Why isn't he paying lots of tax? Okay, the answer is that over the years, he has, I'm sure, paid many, many, many taxes. Also, it is true that he has not done anything illegal. So normally in a situation like this, you'd have to ask yourself, okay, so what did Trump do wrong? So there are a few accusations as to what Trump could have done wrong here. One, he did something illegal on his taxes, like tax fraud. Presumably the IRS would be all over that. Two, he could have obtained some sort of nefarious financial aid from some nefarious foreign players. There's no evidence of that. Or three, you somehow think that just because you're rich, you should be giving more money to the government than you are actually legally obligated to do, which is idiotic, and even Joe Biden doesn't do that. As it turns out, Joe Biden has been spending years dodging the payroll tax. I mean, in August, the Wall Street Journal reported that the Bidens dodged the payroll tax. They used an S corp to avoid paying more than $500,000 in levies for Medicare and Obamacare as well. Apparently, both he and Jill went out of their way to avoid funding seniors' entitlement benefits. According to their tax returns in 2017 and 2018, the Bidens and his wife Jill avoided payroll taxes on nearly $13.3 million in income from book royalties and speaking fees. They did so by classifying the income as S corp profits rather than taxable wages. The Bidens did pay themselves salaries from their corporations of nearly $750,000 between them over 2 years. They paid full taxes on that income, but they circumvented the payroll tax on the nearly 95% of that income that remained. A tax expert interviewed by the Journal in 2019 called the Biden scheme pretty aggressive. Another told the paper it served solely to avoid the payroll taxes. Of the taxes the Bidens avoided, 2.9% of their income, about $385,000 would have funded Medicare. The other 0.9%, nearly $120,000, was part of Obamacare and fund that law. So here's the rule. Did they do anything illegal? No. Did Trump do anything illegal? No. If you don't like the tax code, good idea. You can restructure it. Also, if you're complaining about the fact that President Trump didn't pay enough tax, you should also point out that Trump lowered taxes for everyone, specifically more so on the bottom end of the scale. Okay, in sheer absolute numbers, whenever there's a tax cut, people at the top make the most money because people at the top had the most money to make. But in terms of the disproportionate benefit of the taxes, it really hit people lower down on the income scale more than it hit people higher up on the income scale. If you're not just talking like sheer absolute numbers, if you're talking about percentage decreases, or if you are talking about the benefits that are received under the tax bill, people like me living in California, I actually got shellacked by the Trump tax cuts because it got rid of the state and local tax deductions. So that meant that I had to pay both my state and federal taxes, one on top of the other, as opposed to taking the state taxes in California and taking them against the federal taxes. In any case, what exactly is the bombshell here? So the New York Times reports that Donald Trump paid $750 total, $750 in federal income taxes the year he won the presidency. In his first year in the White House, he paid another $750, period. Not $750,000, $750. Like the cost of, a couple of car payments. He had paid no income taxes at all in 10 of the previous 15 years, largely because he reported losing much more money than he made. According to the New York Times, as the president wages a re-election campaign that polls say he is in danger of losing, his finances are under stress, beset by losses, and hundreds of millions of dollars in debt coming due that he has personally guaranteed. Also hanging over him is a decade-long audit battle with the IRS over the legitimacy of a $72.9 million tax refund he claimed and received after declaring huge losses. An adverse ruling could cost him more than $100 million. The tax returns that Trump has long fought to keep private tell a story fundamentally different from the one he has sold to the American public. His reports to the IRS portray a businessman who takes in hundreds of millions of dollars a year, yet racks up chronic losses that he aggressively employs to avoid paying taxes. Now, with financial challenges mounting, the records show he depends more and more on making money from businesses that put him in potential and often direct conflict of interest with his job as president. So somehow, the New York Times obtained tax return data extending more than 2 decades for Trump and the hundreds of companies that make up his business. Again, this is probably a legal violation in some way. Trump, for his part, called them fake news. He said, I have paid taxes. He said, I've litigated this before. You can't simultaneously say that they are fake news and also that you have and also that you are smart for avoiding taxes, which is something that he has said in the past. The New York Times, Dean Baquet, put out a full note talking about why they put this out, and the answer is because they hate Donald Trump. And they say, we're not making the records themselves public because we do not want to jeopardize our sources who have taken enormous personal risks to help inform the public. We are publishing this report because we believe citizens should understand as much as possible about their leaders and representatives, their priorities, their experiences, and also their finances. So in other words, it's not a violation of law for the New York Times to do this. Just a note, the New York Times was a lot more divided in nature about publishing the WikiLeaks stuff, which again, I think there's a case to be made we shouldn't have published the WikiLeaks stuff than they have been about publishing Trump's taxes. The basic idea here is threefold from Democrats. One, Trump is not the successful businessman he says he is, which, I mean, okay, sure. Also, whatever you think about how Trump has handled his businesses, he has not used public office in order to enrich himself. Joe Biden was worth no money. Then he was vice president. Now he's worth tens of millions of dollars. Barack Obama had the same deal. Like his net worth when he entered office was like $1 million or something. And now Barack Obama is probably worth 9 figures. He's probably worth $100 million now. It turns out that people who make money after being in public office pose significantly more of a threat to the institutional architecture of the republic than people who had a lot of money going in. I've always been bewildered by the idea that if you were rich before you went in, somehow this is a demerit. It seems like that should actually be a merit. But it is true that part of Trump's pitch for a long time has been that he is world-breaking business genius, and I've doubted that story for a very long time. I've always said I'm not even sure that he's worth $1 billion. That doesn't mean that he's poor, but it does mean that he is not the great businessman he said he was. Okay, that's a hit, but it's not much of one. The other hit is supposedly that Trump is dodging taxes. Okay, and again, there's no evidence of this. The New York Times itself says there's no evidence either that Trump has dodged taxes or has violated the law or that he is in hock to the Ruskies. And yet, those are all narratives the Democrats are trying to throw out there today. So first of all, as far as paying no taxes, that actually is not breaking news. All the way back in 2016, Hillary Clinton suggested that Trump paid no taxes, and Trump said, in open debate, right, I didn't pay taxes because I'm smart, not stupid.
Maybe he doesn't want the American people, all of you watching tonight, to know that he's paid nothing in federal taxes, because the only years that anybody's ever seen were a couple of years when he had to turn them over to state authorities when he was trying to get a casino license, and they showed he didn't pay any federal income tax. So if he's paid zero.
Okay, so he said that makes me far smarter, right? He comes back, he said that made me far smarter than anybody else. Okay, again, it's not like this is a big secret. Everybody has sort of speculated about this for a very long time. And the New York Times shows no evidence of illegality. That doesn't stop Carl Bernstein. Worse than Watergate, Carl Bernstein. Carl Bernstein has spent his entire career just saying worse than Watergate ever since Watergate. So this is worse than Watergate too. Ukraine was worse than Watergate. Trump talking about the election was worse than Watergate. Everything is worse than Watergate for Carl Bernstein.
This is really the smoking gun of a pervasively criminal presidency. We have a president of the United States who is a grifter. His family are grifters, and this is the definitive evidence of it. This once again points to the president's foreign entanglements for his own political purposes and his own financial good. There's certainly implications of tax fraud to begin with that needs to be looked at and will be looked at.
Remember that one time he reported a story and it was like 15 years before I was born and we're going to pretend like he's still a relevant figure, Carl Bernstein? Okay, so that story's dumb. The idea that he did anything illegal, if he did, we have an entire wing of the federal government that is designed to go after people who violate tax law. Okay, the second attack is that he is in hock to the Ruskies. There's no evidence he's in hock to the Ruskies. In fact, it says directly in many of the documents, I think it's page 35 of his disclosures, federal disclosures, who he owes money to. That didn't stop Kamala Harris from doing the, who do you owe money to, President Trump? Here was Kamala Harris.
Who does he owe the money to? Tell us. Who do you owe the money to? And do you owe debt to any foreign nation? Do you owe, do you owe debt? Do you owe money? Let's just be clear about what debt means. You owe somebody money. Do you owe anybody money who is impacted by any decision you make as president of the United States? We need to know that.
Okay, again, there's no evidence that he is being in any way twisted around by foreign adversaries. Remember, they've been trying this crap since 2016, and they're not going to stop. Right? Nancy Pelosi then suggested that Trump's debt is a national security question. What does Putin have on him? What is Putin? They never changed the tune. I mean, guys, stick and move a little bit. I mean, Nancy Pelosi, the addled Nancy Pelosi, continuing to suggest that this is all about what Putin does. All roads lead to Putin is Nancy Pelosi's routine. It's absurd. This is absurd. You guys are making mockeries of yourself.
This president appears to have over $400 million in debt, 420, whatever it is, $million in debt. To whom? Different countries? What is the leverage they have? So for me, this is a national security question. The question is, what does Putin have on the president politically, personally, financially, in every way that the president would try to undermine our commitment to NATO?
Okay, this is just, I'm sorry, this is so tiring. This kind of crap is so tiring. And then MSNBC has on the greatest of all political analysts, a person who once played a politician on TV. We're now beyond the point of parody. I mean, do you remember there was a commercial back in the 1970s in which a guy who played a doctor on General Hospital led off the commercial by saying, "I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV." Okay, well, now you got Jeff Daniels, who was not, in fact, a newsman, but played one on TV. Now he's talking about his theories about Trump's taxes because we need to hear from Jeff Daniels. Okay, here's Jeff Daniels on that great news network, MSNBC.
What are they talking about in Helsinki? What were, all the stuff. I mean, there's all of that, the tax returns that he won't show us. It's so obvious. And where is he getting the money? Where did he get all the money? And I mean, all roads, as Speaker Pelosi said, all roads lead to Putin. And, time's running out. This is a bad movie we're living through. That's what this is. If it weren't so life and death,
he should know bad movies. I mean, honest to God, he really should. But that is very solid stuff right there from Jeff Daniels. Definitely needed to hear from that guy, from the Dumb and Dumber guy. I need to hear from him right now. Get him on the line. Stat! We need to hear from Jeff Daniels right now. Stat! On Trump's taxes. Okay, the final angle, of course, is that Trump is poorer than he said he is, and that's really bad. Again, do I think it looks good for Trump to pay $750 in taxes over the last couple of years? No, I don't. But would it matter? They went after Mitt Romney and said that Mitt Romney didn't pay his taxes. He paid 14% effective tax rate. Harry Reid just lied about it. Is any of this going to make a serious dent for Trump? Probably not. Is it going to come up tonight? Probably. But again, do I think it's that the media are going agog over this thing? And I'm just like, why? You don't have enough material against Trump? You got to go to this? Seriously? Facts don't care about your feelings, and it's a fact that The Ben Shapiro Show is the largest conservative podcast in the nation. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on all of our content.